All right, now I'm going to show you how to calibrate the GX-2009. So why would you calibrate? Well, if your instrument tells you that you've exceeded the 90 days, there's a good clue that you need to calibrate. And the instrument will actually go into alarm to remind you that you've exceeded your calibration limits. Let me show you that. I'm going to push the power mode button. The meter's going to start to warm up. And the very first screen is telling me I've exceeded my cal limit. So if I see this screen during the warm-up sequence, I'm going to go ahead and stop what I'm doing and calibrate the meter. So I'm going to go ahead and power it right back down, because to get to the calibration menu, I need to go into the menus. And so you saw in a previous video, to get into the menus, you're going to start by pressing the air button and then pressing the power button. When the meter beeps, you'll let go of both buttons, and now you're in the menus. So the first menu is the date menu. I'm going to press the air button. The next menu is my fresh air cal button. So it's always a good idea to start with a fresh air calibration if you hadn't done that already. So let's go ahead and do one. Press your power mode to select air cal. It's telling me push air, so I'm going to push air. Now it says hold air. I'm going to keep holding. And now it says release, so I'm going to let go. And now it says end. And it goes back to the fresh air cal menu. Now we know the sensors are fresh air caled. So I'm going to use my air button to scroll to the next menu. And this is my auto cal menu. This is how I automatically calibrate my sensors. Now in order to do that, I need my other accessories. I need my cylinder of calibration gas. And remember, like we mentioned earlier, you're going to want to check the expiration date on that cylinder and make sure you've got good calibration gas. You don't want to calibrate your meters on expired cal gas. So make sure your cylinder is good to go, and make sure you're using the right concentrations. This is what the factory recommends. 50 part per million CO, 25 part per million hydrogen sulfide, 50% LEL methane, and 12% oxygen with a balance of nitrogen. So we're using the factory recommended calibration gas. Even though it says All Safe Industries, it is the right gas according to the factory RKI. The next thing you'll need is the regulator. In order to dispense the gas, we typically use a ½ liter flow rate. This is a standard preset flow rate regulator. As soon as I turn this regulator all the way on, it's going to flow ½ liter per minute. But I want to have this regulator off when I put it on my cylinder. The other thing I need is my calibration cup. The calibration cup is what feeds the gases to the sensors, and you can see it's a black molded, but you can see with the reflection of the light there's sensor labels on the side of the cal cup, and you're going to want to match those up with the sensor labels on the side of the instrument. So you'll put this in here like this. But first, let's take our regulator and engage that onto the cylinder of gas. You want to check the pressure valve to make sure that there is calibration gas in the cylinder, and I can see my needle says that I do. Then I can get my meter ready to accept the cal gas, so I'm going to go ahead and snap the cal cup on in the same way, matching up my sensor labels on the cal cup with the sensor labels on the instrument. And then I'm ready to enter the cal menu. So I'm going to select that menu by pressing power mode. And it's reminding me what my gas values should be when I'm calibrating. So there you see 50 for LEL, 12 for oxygen, 50 for CO, and 25 for H2S, the same values that I saw on the side of my cylinder just a second ago. So I'm going to select, I want to do the automatic calibration, so I'm going to push power mode. And now the instrument's waiting for gas, so I'm going to turn the gas on. You can hear the gas flowing, and you can also smell the gas. You'll smell that hydrogen sulfide. So if that bothers you, just do this in a well-ventilated area. And then I'm watching the screen to see what the numbers scroll to. Now I can't control those numbers, but when the numbers start to stabilize, that tells me that my sensors have reached full scale, and I should be able to press the button to end the calibration. We'll automatically reset the sensors to the calibration gas that we're using. That's why we want to use the right gas. And so I'm seeing my LEL has stopped moving. My CO is right where it needs to be. My H2S is close. And my oxygen sensor. If you're, when you press the cal button, it's going to reset these numbers to the right values. So now that the numbers have stopped moving, I'm going to press power mode. It says pass. and I'm back to the auto cal menu, so I can turn the calibration gas off. I can remove the cal cup from my instrument, and I just performed a full calibration of my gas meter. So now I want to show you how to download data from your GX-2009. So first of all, you're going to need the software program on your computer, and as mentioned before, you get a nice GX-2009 product disc that has all sorts of materials on here, including the Datalogger program. So you would just put this disc in your computer, and it will bring up all the choices that you have to download the content off of this disc. Once you've downloaded the software program onto your computer, you're also going to need an infrared reader. These instruments communicate via infrared, so the top port on your instrument is your infrared port, and that needs to be lined up with your infrared port reader that just plugs into your USB. So it just works exactly like your remote control for your television. It communicates infrared. So on your computer, you will launch the GX-2009 program. The Datalogging program will open. Then you'll come and turn your GX-2009 meter on. And as it starts the warm-up sequence, it will automatically detect that it's in front of an infrared reader. And then it goes into PC transmit mode, if you can see that. PC transmit. So once you've established that connection, now you can go back to the software and you'll see right here on screen, GX-2009 connection successful. And then you simply click the download button. It's going to download the information out of the instrument. There you have it. Once the information is downloaded, you can see over here in the status window the status of the download, and then you can go to the data file, and then all the information is parked in these data files. And then once you navigate to one of the folders for the particular report that you're looking for, then you can click on View Data, and then that would give you the ability to print or export the data to your own spreadsheets. And here you can see in this particular moment on this particular data log, we were in alarm, and so it's highlighted red to show that we were in an alarm condition at that moment. Once you've downloaded the data, then you can clear the data from the instrument just by clicking the Clear button and saying yes to this screen. And now you've downloaded the data from your GX-2009. Now we'll talk about maintenance on the GX-2009. The 4 sensors are located in the bottom of the unit. We have an oxygen sensor, an LEL sensor, or your flammable gas sensor, carbon monoxide, and hydrogen sulfide. Those sensors won't last forever, so when they wear out, they'll need to be changed, and I'll show you how to do that. All right, now we're going to do some maintenance on our GX-2009. There's not a lot of consumable parts, but there are some. There are the 4 different sensors inside the instrument. There are some filters on the sensor retainer, and there's also the 2 rechargeable nickel metal hydride batteries, and so periodically those items might need to be changed. So I'm just going to grab a simple Phillips head screwdriver and loosen the 2 screws on the bottom of the sensor retainer, and I'm just going to keep unscrewing those until they start to click. That tells me that that has released. And then there's 2 little clips on the side, so I'm just going to pry that up on one side, and then I'm going to pry this up on the other side. And now my sensor retainer is loose. I'm just going to pull that and set that off to the side. And here you see my 4 sensors, and they just literally sit right there. Here's my H2S sensor. Here's my CO sensor. Here's my LEL sensor. It's the only one that has the metal centered filter on the top. And here is my oxygen sensor. You can see that these sensors are color coded. The oxygen contact pin is right in the middle, so you can make that one go in really any way you want. So we just took out our old sensor. We'll pretend this is our new sensor. We're going to put that back in, and that just sits right in the blue section for oxygen. Your hydrocarbon is what HC stands for. It's your LEL sensor. The contact pins are on either side of the sensor. And so you want to make sure that when you install that those contact pins match up with the contact pins in the instrument. And then if you look at the CO and the H2S sensors, they have little arrows on the top of them. And you want the little arrows on the top of the sensor to match up with the arrows on the sensor position inside the instrument. Do you see those? And so we want to make sure that when we set that in there, that those arrows line up, because that way we're lining up with the contact points inside the instrument. And so same thing with our new H2S sensor. We want to drop that in, and then of course we would reinstall our sensor cover, snap it all together, cinch down our screws, and that's how we change out the sensors. It really couldn't be easier. Now I'm going to set the meter off to the side for a second because I want to show you a couple other maintenance items. This sensor retainer actually has a couple layers to it because there are some filters inside here that we can change. So I'm going to take my handy dandy screwdriver here again, and I'm going to release this top cover just by prying up on these little tabs. And I'm going to go ahead and just lift those up on all four tabs on both sides. Well, there's 2 tabs on each side, total of 4. And once I've got that released, you'll see the filters that are inside here. So once we pull this apart, that just is our filter retainer. And then this is our hydrophobic filter. So hydrophobic means it's afraid of water, and the hydrophobic filter, is what keeps the moisture and the water off our sensors. It's a gas detection instrument, so we need gas to get in, but we don't want liquid to get in. So there's our hydrophobic filter. And then there are a couple more filters inside here. This is an activated charcoal filter, and this goes over the CO sensor to help it from reacting to hydrocarbons. And so you'll see as I pull that out, it's just a little filter media, and it just sits right there on top of where the CO sensor sits. Then we also have a hydrogen sulfide filter. I'm going to pop that guy out. And this helps protect, I'm actually going to push it up from the bottom. I'm sorry, there's actually a gasket in here too. So there's our gasket that sits in between our hydrophobic filter and the sensor retainer. And then here is the little H2S filter that I mentioned. Now my H2S filter is actually needs to be changed. These should be white. And you can see how this filter has reacted to enough hydrogen sulfide gas. This sits right over the LEL sensor, which actually keeps some of the hydrogen sulfide off the LEL sensor, which can degrade the life of the sensor. So the other thing I want to point out to you is when you go to put this gasket back, you'll notice that there's little tabs on the bottom, and there's 2 shapes that help you line it up properly. So there's this little teardrop shape right here, and then there's just a circle here on this other side, and it matches up with the shapes on the filter retainer itself, if you can see that on there. So you just want to match this up, match those little shapes up, will get you oriented to the right size. So imagine I replaced my charcoal filter, I replaced my H2S filter, I would have replaced my hydrophobic filter, and then I can snap my filter retainer back into place, and now my sensor retainer is back in business. It's all put back together, and now I can just screw this back onto the instrument. So I would snap this into place, and then I would retighten my screws to hold in the sensor retainer. And that's how easy it is to change the sensors and the filters on the sensor retainer. Let me show you one other way we would take this apart, and that is if we wanted to change our batteries. Now these are rechargeable nickel metal hydride batteries. We have not seen a lot of customers changing these out, so they should last a long time. But if you're noticing that you're not getting a 20-hour runtime off the batteries that are installed, Worst case scenario, your meter goes to full charge and then it will only run for 2 or 3 hours. It might be time to change those batteries. So you loosen those 4 screws, and then this whole back cover plate is going to come off. You got to make sure that all the screws are fully loosened for that to release. There we go. And there's the batteries. Now the black part is part of the battery. So if we had to replace this, just kind of hold the circuit board in place and wiggle until the entire battery assembly pops out. There it goes. Just be careful not to break any of the pins in there. These are little springs that make contact with the battery, and so we want to make sure that we don't damage those in any way. But you won't need to do this very often, but if you need to replace the rechargeable nickel metal hydrides, you'll just pop those right off the circuit board. You'll purchase new nickel metal hydride batteries. You need 2 per meter, and then you'll just snap those into place. Once you've replaced both batteries, making sure you match up your polarity, then you put the case back together. You tighten those 4 screws down again. I see that's not a captured screw, so make sure you don't lose any of these. And then you've replaced everything that you might need to replace in your GX-2009. The sensors, the filters inside the sensor retainer, and the 2 rechargeable batteries on the inside of the instrument. Those are your only consumable parts, other than, of course, the calibration gas that you'll use up while you're doing your calibrations and your bump checks. And finally, I want to show you some other accessories available for the GX-2009. There's a pump module that you can add to the unit. It runs on its own set of batteries and it snaps right onto the bottom of the meter. This would allow you to turn your diffusion GX-2009 into a pumped 2009. This would allow you to draw samples from outside of confined space, or if you had to do some surveying around a field of drums or valves or pipes, whatever the case may be. So the pump module could really be helpful for you. There's also a calibration station. Let me show you how that works. Notice in this kit is we have a built-in calibration station. The calibration station will automatically bump check and calibrate your meters. It will also charge the batteries, so you'll see the 5th instrument is resting on the cal station so that it can charge, and then I can cycle each meter over to the cal station so that I can do the bump checks of the calibration. You'd simply turn the cradle on and you can just see the LED displays. There's 5 buttons over here. There's a bump button, a cal button, an edit button if you need to change some cal station parameters, a copy button so that you can download onto a thumb drive the bump check and cal certificates, and then your power button to turn on the cal station. So if I turn the meter on while it's in the cal station, it will start its normal boot up sequence, but then it will recognize that it is in a cal station and it will say PC transmit, just like that. And so now it knows it's in a cal station, and so I can reach over here and press the bump button, hold it for a second, and then you'll hear the pump start to run, and it will automatically go and do a bump check on that instrument. So what we've done is your calibration gas is set up on a demand flow regulator. The demand flow regulator allows gas to flow automatically when the cal station calls for it. And so first it will purge the instrument with fresh air, and then you'll hear a click, and that means it's going to start sampling gas to the meter so we can do a bump check. So there went the click, and now it's going to start doing a bump check on the sensors in this unit. It's a fairly quick process and it's automatic. I don't have to do anything. I just let the cal station do all the work for me. At the end of this, when it reaches full scale, it will recognize that the bump check passed, and it will say P or pass on all the channels, and then we'll get a green light down here on the bump. And then at the end of the sequence, it will run fresh air again, so it's running fresh air one more time, and then at the end of the sequence this will just power down. So this is a nice upgrade to the kits that you already have. If you want to add a cal station, if you want to add a pump module, this just takes your GX-2009 kit to the next level by adding these other accessories. So thank you very much for being a customer, for watching this video, and learning a little bit more about the GX-2009. Again, I can't stress enough how this can really save your life. So let's make sure that you know how to use it, know how to properly operate it, and pay attention to it when it goes into alarm. It's only there to help you. I thank you again. If you ever need tech support, call Safe Industries. Our toll-free number is 888-972-3389. The easy way to remember that number is it spells out 8889 safety. Thanks again.